Welcome to the DLS Dallas Stars pregame show.
Oh, Sam.
Sequitur.
Oh, Sam.
Did we catch it or not?
I don't. I think Sam missed the show. Missed Sam's great line. Missed the stream starting by about a hair.
Man, Sam, that was really close. Well, Craig Ludwig, Sam Nestler, I'm Owen. John's here. Don't forget to, he stuck his tongue out at our viewers tonight. Stars and Sharks at American Airlines Center. Guys, this one is all about starting on time because I asked you yesterday at the end of our show, what are you looking for? You said it can't be like those first 5 minutes against the Ducks.
I'm sure that's everything that they've talked about in the last 48 hours is we're gonna start the game when we're supposed to start the game. When we drop that first puck, not the fourth or the fifth face-off, it's the first one. That's why I'm interested tonight to see who starts the game for the Dallas Stars.
Sam, I don't remember that question directly being.
Owen?
What's that?
Are we playing the countdown?
Well, let's go. Actually, I really like that thumbnail. It's a good one, John.
Thank you.
Yeah,
good thing we used it and didn't just start the show without doing any of the fanfare.
We were just ready. We're just excited. This is the DLS Dallas Stars pregame show now officially. So let's start with Sam. I don't remember hearing that question in the Pete DeBoer scrum. To be fair, I didn't ask it either. But starting on time seems to be pretty important for this one. Did you hear it at all from anybody in the pregame this morning?
No, and I think it's probably because we talked about 400 times after that game, whatever that was, Monday, and at practice yesterday. So practice was awesome, by the way, yesterday. Great time at the event. But I think it's
you
more
just
of,
liked because it was like 5 minutes from your apartment.
That was beautiful. I walked right in there, got my skate sharpened. It was a nice little change of pace. But yeah, it's important, right? You can't go down 2-0 in the first period to any team in this league. It's just too hard to come back. And while there are a lot of comebacks in this league, it's not a sustainable way of playing hockey. So tonight they got a team that is struggling probably even more than the Ducks. The Ducks were at least coming in with a few wins. So you got to take advantage. And I think Luds, if they don't start Matt Duchene's line tonight, I think it's a missed opportunity. And I'm with you on that.
I don't know. I think if they start a line that plays in straight lines and wants to get some energy into the building quick, that might be another way too, because this is a team that if they play that kind of I'm not saying that Duchene lines, Marshman, those guys, they can be physical, but if they play this way in the Sharks zone tonight, they're a very poor team in their own zone when it comes to a lot of different categories. So that's why I would keep an eye on, the pucks that don't get in and get turned over in, not so good areas of the ice that don't need to be turned over, and they spend the majority of the game in that end. They're gonna come out on the right end of the stick tonight.
The big lineup news of the day for the Stars: not only Jake Oettinger is starting tonight, but that Nils Lundkvist will return to the lineup as Brendan Smith will be a healthy scratch. And Sam, as we look at this, I talked to Alain Nazardine after the morning skate, and he said they were splitting up Heiskanen and Lindell to accommodate the three right-handed defensemen.
Yeah, this is a conversation we've had a few times, right? We know that the team never seems to have the right amount of righty or lefty to work with whatever they're going for. So this is one of the options here to split them up. We know I actually asked Nils because I figured if there's anyone who has played on their left, it's probably Nils Lundkvist, just from the way his style of game. And he said that he actually hasn't. So it's kind of a situation where there's not a lot of guys here that can play both. There's no other Miro Heiskanen on this lineup. So at the moment, at least how they feel right now, they feel better splitting that up and going lefty-righty than they do about trying to put someone, a Dumba or Lundkvist or Lyubushkin or any of those righties on the opposite side. So what I'm excited to see tonight is Lundkvist, because I talked to him for a while this morning after morning skate, because it's interesting where he is right now, because it's not how it was yet last year or 2 years ago. It's not the stress for him. He's coming in and out. He's still gotten healthy scratch here and there. but it's not how it was where it's like, hey, you're out 5 games, you get one, you make a mistake, you're out again. We've gone to the next tier of trust. Even Pete mentioned, using Lundqvist in the past tense when talking about developing young players. So Lundqvist has really enjoyed the fact that he's able to focus on getting better instead of am I in the lineup every single night, and that's been really helpful for him to open him up. Now he says he really wants to become more of an offensive threat, which obviously is what we heard from Pete, a couple weeks ago, whenever that was. So for Nils to step up and play, he's with Lindell. He's a very, very sturdy and safe defenseman. I think this is a good chance for him tonight to really try to show off, jump in the rush, and maybe get one past the netminder.
One thing I asked Nazardine this morning was, is it possible, as we were talking about, because they like the pairing of Lindell and Heiskanen so much, and obviously Harley and Lyubushkin as their top 4, that if they want to play Dumba and Lundqvist together, they do it? And he said, he goes, that's not how we're going to start tonight, but I could definitely see that happening at some point, whether it's this game or down the road. And I said, who would you go, which of the righties would you ask? He said, Matt Dumba, because he's the more experienced of the two. And he said he didn't want to put Nils in a bad position right now with him playing in a good, they feel like he's progressing and they don't want to set him back by messing up which side he's playing on.
I think you need to do that with every young player, is put them in a position to succeed, because if they're doubting themselves, and again, like we talk a lot about not thinking too much and just reacting. And if you're all of a sudden you've never played the opposite side and you've got to think about here and there, because what'll generally happen when you do play your offside is you're gonna drift further and further to the boards from your partner because you think you need that little bit of extra time. The next thing you know, but the unfortunately is when you're there, you've only got one direction to go with the puck. So, and that was told to me from a Hall of Famer when I was young in Montreal, and he goes, Les, if you want to go back, but be in the middle of the ice. You don't have to stretch all the way to the other side of the ice. At least when you're in the middle of the ice, you have options to go both ways. You limit yourself when you get your butt against the wall and you only got one direction to go. So, I think it's great that he feels good about this whole thing, Sam. I think that's a great attitude to have. And I hope they're having the conversation with him especially, not Dumba or Smith. They're veteran guys that you may not play every single game of the year. And there are going to be times that you're coming out just because we have 7 guys we're keeping fresh so that he doesn't try to play that mistake-free game. It's not a good way to have to play the game.
Yeah, and I think a key to that they've done so far is I can remember, I don't think a lot of defensemen have come in for one game and come out, right? So it's pretty much been at least playing 2 games. So I'm really hoping for Lundqvist. I hope that continues because I mean, Lutz, tell me if you agree. You mentioned that I think it was you that were talking about put us together and give us 2 games or give us 3 games. I think it was Hitch you were talking about. And that's what you need, right? You come in and you play 1 game, you come back out. There's no way you can not think that you didn't play well enough or that you made a mistake, even if it is really just to get another guy in. So for them, I really think it's important to give them at least 2 games, maybe 3 games, especially if they're playing well. But the key for all those young guys, Bork as well, any of those guys that are kind of on the tier or just starting to become the full-time NHLers, Pete's talked a ton about becoming that next level where you're no longer in the conversation. When we think, hey, we need to change something up next game, Maverick Bork, we don't want him in that conversation. We don't want to even think Maverick Bork. We don't want to even think Nils Lundqvist. So that's up to the young guys as well. And I love how Pete said it this morning I think it was Bruce that asked the question. He wants to keep everyone elevated, or Brian Ray. Someone asked, they want to keep everyone elevated. The coaches want their players to play at their top level. Like, he wants Maverick Bork on the 3rd line or above. But it's up to those players to take that next step and no longer be in the question whether that's a healthy scratch or whether that's dropping you to a 4th line or a 3rd pairing. They need to be in the next tier of that decision making, and it makes the coaches' decisions a heck of a lot easier and hopefully makes us stop talking about these guys going in and out of the lineup.
Sam, I want to talk about goaltending for a minute. Jake gets the start tonight. He's tied for 2nd in the league in wins with 9. Only Connor Hellebuck has more with 12. If he wins tonight, he could be the 2nd goalie in the NHL this year to reach 10 wins, double digits, which is exactly what you're going for. As I said the other night, he's 5th in goals against average. He's 9th in save percentage, so he's in really good shape that way. However, you had an interesting conversation with Casey DeSmith this morning that I wanted you to share with everybody watching because of the fact that it talked a bit, specifically you talked to him about those goals that he gave up in the first period against the Anaheim Ducks.
Yeah, I asked him about the first goal. I was just more curious on what he saw because we've talked extensively about that goal, and we didn't know whether the puck hit Duchesne's stick, whether he saw something different than we saw, or whatever the situation was. So I asked Casey, I said, what did you see on that play, and how'd you feel about it? And he told me not only was the puck knuckling, but it didn't just drop, it dropped and went to his blocker
Right.
side, so his right. So he was on the left side of the net. I remember we talked about in the post game, we are like, why is he? It's not even like he's close; he's far across the net. So he said that one, he didn't even feel Troy Terry touch his glove, which just shows you how crazy that puck movement and all the stuff that was going on was. The fact that he didn't even notice that his glove got pushed a good 3 inches to the inside, which is funny because that Pete said they didn't think it was worth challenging. Casey didn't even know they were thinking about challenging it because they didn't even know that was going on. But he said he really didn't like that goal, but it was one where he could say, you know what, that's a fluke. I've seen, he's like, I've seen 2 knuckle pucks in my entire life, and it's just fitting that this one came against the Ducks. So it was a big emotional and mental thing to reset, right? And say, that was a fluke goal. Let's get back in the game. The one he really didn't like on his own account was the second goal, which was that down the right wing. I thought it was a 2-on-1, that shot to the far blocker side.
That was a Leeson
It
goal.
was the Lisa goal.
Yeah, Leeson. So interestingly enough, it wasn't that he was out of position. When you look at it, I'm not a goalie, but when you look at it, it looked like he was too far over across the post. But he actually said he likes to play those down the wing shots over there with his skate a little bit outside the post. What he didn't like was that he did what he calls a shift, which I'm going to ask Sean when he's on to explain this a little bit more. But basically, it's not a full movement as a goaltender. It's just basically dropping your weight into a position to make yourself bigger in one spot. And essentially, he dropped his weight down to his left, and the shot came and went in that one little spot to his right. So it was just another one of those plays. But I think the really interesting part about talking to him this morning was, as a goalie, 90% of that position is between the ears. It's a mental position. You can get lit up for 5 goals, and none of them can be your fault. Or you can get 12 shots and you let in 2, and they're both your fault. And you have to be able to stay in that game emotionally and be able to help your team win. And this season for the Stars, the NHL, as we've talked about a bunch, is so close in skill level. There are going to be a ton of games where you think the Stars should win, that they're going to be in a tight game. We saw it. We've seen it with the Ducks. We've seen it with the Sharks in that shootout game. The goaltenders are going to need to be very mentally strong to be able to get past that part of either I let in a bad goal, or we're not playing our best, or hey, we shouldn't be tied 3-3 in the third period with the San Jose Sharks. But to get to that next step and make that save in the third period that helps your team win, that's what I think Jake's really good at, and Casey is showing that he's able to do it as well.
Good job, Sam. I don't even know what the hell the original question was anymore.
It was about Casey DeSmith.
Oh, was it? Okay.
It was. No, he's still going.
That was good, Sam. I like that.
and it's
again,
good reporting, isn't it?
That's what he does. That's why he's here.
Why you're
he
here,
gets paid
Sam.
the big bucks. I don't know why we need Shapiro here.
Appreciate it.
Clip that for tomorrow, John.
What the hell? What is it?
Sean's coming back tomorrow. He'll be at the show.
He's listening right now, too.
If he's not listening
no,
now,
he's in Detroit, isn't he?
He'll hear
He's at a game.
Yeah, he might not hear this later because the pregame show, if you're not watching it live, I don't think you get it later, unlike the postgame and the regular show. Let's talk about Macklin Celebrini before we let Sam go. We didn't play the first game against the Stars because he got hurt in the opener. He missed 12 games, but he's back now. And there was some talk that they were going to sort of handle him the way that Anaheim did with Leo Carlson last year, which is sort of scheduled off days.
Coddle.
Obviously, Luds doesn't like that style, but that's not going to be the case tonight. He's playing. They do have a back-to-back, so it'll be interesting to see, do they have him play tomorrow in St. Louis or not?
What is the 18?
Yeah,
I think he'll have some gas left for the game
I think so,
tomorrow.
too.
Okay.
So, Macklin Celebrini, you excited to see him play live?
Not really.
On a screen?
Yeah.
Sam, are you excited to see Macklin live since you and I will be in the building?
Well, it's just not really.
Well, it's the same. He's watching on TV whether it's home or away.
Yeah, no, I am. I was really bummed out that he was hurt that last game. He scored the game winner in their last game against Detroit. Nice goal. Him and Will Smith have been playing together a little bit here and there as well. So just something to watch. He is such a good player, and he is so smooth. He reminds me of just that college hockey player that just doesn't. He just finds a way to get away from defenders, and he's not a big guy. He's tall, and he's pretty decently strong, but he's not even as big as Connor Bedard. He's a pretty skinny guy. So it'll be really interesting to see how he does tonight against Dallas, who is obviously expected to be one of the better teams in the West this year.
If I'm Matt Dumba, I'm looking for him coming across the middle of the ice. Head down, one of these little toe drag kind of fancy things, and welcome to the NHL again.
Well, interestingly, you talk about Dumba. Brendan Smith was the one that got Bedard last year that broke his jaw. It was just,
and he felt really bad about it too.
I mean, it was just an ill-timed play. It was, I think it was a legal
Yeah.
hit. It just was bad luck to the injury.
Yeah.
But he won't be in the lineup tonight. Will be Lundqvist. Sam, go check out warm-up. Make sure that John Gibson isn't a healthy scratch tonight, like last game.
I'm on it.
And maybe make sure that Mackenzie Blackwood is the first guy on the ice for the San Jose Sharks.
And save plenty of Skittles for Owen when he gets there
don't eat all the candy.
on his scooter.
Scooter's back in tonight.
Oh yeah, he's got the scooter, the new inner tube, the whole 9 yards.
And
He's good to
forgot
go.
the suit jacket in his
His
house.
helmet with a blinking light on it. It's embarrassing as hell.
I'm here
All
to
right,
bring
well, you
joy.
drive safe, Owen. You drive safe.
Thank you. I'll see you shortly. All right, lads. I have a lot to get to. I clipped a bunch of stuff I want to get your reaction on. But before we do, what do you expect from Macklin Celebrini?
Exactly what I think we know. I mean, that's who he is. I think they want him to do that. But from a coaching standpoint, it can't be on display every shift. You got to play the rest of the rink too. So, but you don't. When you have a player that kind of skill level, you have to let him play with that skill, and you don't expect him to be a Selke finalist this year. You're going to work through those kind of things with him and know the right. The biggest thing is the right areas and the right time to be able to use that skill. And time and score. So you're he wants to become a player. He's going to be the kind of player that right now in the next 3-4 years, until he gets to understand the game at both ends of the rink, when they're down a goal, he's going to be out there in the last minute, right, in the offensive zone.
Of course.
If they're up a goal, he's probably going to be sitting on the bench.
Yep.
Right? And so he wants to work towards that so that you have those kind of guys out there at all different times of the game. So more rounded players. Because again, in today's game, what guys that can put the puck in the net like that, you want them to be able to play in your own zone. You want to face off. Where's it going? And Ovechkin's doing a pretty good job at hitting a lot of open nets. So I think they just want him to be a complete player. And like you said, if they take their time with him, that's fine. But I think you kind of judge that on how he goes from game to game.
All right, let's hear some reaction from this morning from Pete DeBoer. A lot of interesting stuff from his morning press availability. So I clipped it up, and I want to get your take on all of these things. We're going to start with, he was asked about the Matt Duchene line, and particularly the end of this answer is where I want to hit you with.
Yeah, that line's been they've been fantastic, and let's be honest. I mean, they've carried us, so far. We need some other lines to get going, and that's the challenge of our group right now, and our guys know that. We've got a lot of guys in that room, other lines that have to start to carry the mail here on some nights. When we've been a really good team here in my time here, it's a different line every night, or one line's off, another line picks them up. I think we've been more of a one-line team offensively so far through 15 games, more than I've liked. So we've got to fix that.
We've been mostly a one-line team for more games than I would like. That's a big statement. Obviously, we know the Duchene line.
Because you were spoiled last year.
Yeah.
Right?
But not just spoiled, but that's the roster build for the team to be good. And as we talked about, the top line, Hintz, Robertson, and right now it's Zdonov.
That was last year.
They haven't
been a top line this year.
No, and that's the problem. That's part of why they feel like they've been really, the heavy workload's been the Duchene line.
Welcome to 70% of the other teams in the league. I mean, it was a luxury last year to have that. It was a no-brainer to look at the sheet at the end of the game and go 17 minutes, 18 minutes, 17 minutes, 17, every line. So that's a luxury. And now you do feel like you have to weigh a little bit more heavier and those kind of things on three guys where you didn't have to worry about that. So but again, you're getting closer to having a balanced group, right? And I think Maverick's going to have a lot to do with that, the way it looks right now.
Funny you bring that up, because he was
that's called a segue.
It's a great segue.
Okay.
Just like talking about Maverick Bourque, we have a bunch. Let's start with the first thing that Pete said about him being moved up the lineup a little bit.
Yes, I'd like to keep them elevated. I'd like to keep everyone elevated. They decide that, No, really, the players decide that. You guys, and we talk about this all the time, but the coaches don't make those decisions. The players decide. Maverick Maverick made the decision to get elevated last game. I just elevated him by his play. He started on the fourth line. He was noticeable in the first period. He was moving his feet. He was coming up with pucks. He looked dangerous. Probably for the first time this year, and we elevated him. And now it's on him to continue on that path.
And that's an interesting piece that could help alleviate the feeling of a one-line team, even though they have lots of depth, but they're not all these lines haven't been going. If Bourque can figure out a way to replicate that, that changes quite a bit about how they shake out their tops, at least their top 9.
But where does he go?
I would love to see if
you can't tell me he's going to play on his offside.
Well, he's a right shot.
But is he going to go up there? Isn't he a centerman naturally?
Naturally. But could he eventually? I'm not saying right away, but could he eventually?
Do you think he plays there tonight?
No, I think they start with Dodonov up there. Yeah. Yes, but
that hasn't fixed anything.
No, but he's been okay. Dodonov's been good actually for what he is. That's not the problem.
That's exactly.
We're gonna get to that.
We're gonna get to that.
So I asked Pete.
I feel good for, and Pete's right. Yep. And also players dictate when they get moved down too. You know what I mean? It goes both ways. Yep. Same thing. So I like that Pete thinks that way about it, and it's good that players hear that, and I'm sure they hear it enough. But they're the ones that dictate where you're going to play, and we all know that when you look at the numbers at what Maverick did, in the minors and things like that, he's a point guy, and so you have to put him in the best spot with the best people to be able to translate what he does into points for him and for the guys around him.
So I asked Pete the very next question after he finished that answer. I asked him about how he builds off that game into the moving forward.
Yeah, that's how you establish yourself as a bona fide NHL player, and that's the toughest thing for young guys to do is to get enough consistency in that type of game that you're not going to have that type of game 20 games in a row, but you can't have it once, and then have a poor one, and then once again you've got to string together 2 or 3, and then a coach gets to a point where he's had an off night, we'll overlook it, and you're still in that spot. I mean, that's establishing yourself as an NHL player.
But what's good about this is the opponent tonight, the opponent last game, the opponent tonight. Because he can build on that, I think, better against this opponent than maybe the opponent on Saturday night.
Or on Monday.
Because
they have two much tougher grade level opponents, the next 2 on the road, than they do these 2.
Yeah, and that's part of it. And it's a timing thing. But you're not going to judge Maverick. Let's say he has another good game tonight. You're not going to judge him differently against Tampa, whoever it's going to be, right? Because they're better teams and they have better players and they're more of a dangerous team. It's more of just his game. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't go and say, well, man, you had 2 good games and then you played, 2-time Stanley Cup team and man, you played awful. That's not the way it works, especially with a young player, and it can't work that way.
Hey, Owen, we do have news on this front. Check what Sam just texted us. Maverick Bourque is slotted in as the third line center tonight.
Let's take a look. Yeah, look at that. Okay, so
let me guess. Did you say third line center?
Yep.
So that means 11's going up on the right side.
So John, not quite. No? John, pop the lines that we had prepared. This was from last game. It's going to be Robertson, Hintz, and Johnston. Marchment, Duchesne, Sagan, Ben, Bourque in the middle with Stankoven on the right, and then Oscar Beck, Sam Steele, and Evgeny Dodonov, which is a really good look on your fourth line. And I've said this all season. I like Dodonov. He's a utility knife. He can play on a lot of different places. But this team is better when he's on the fourth line. And it's not a knock on him. It means that other guys are playing well enough to demand higher up on the pecking order.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you could even say third line. You know what I mean? Like if he's on the third or fourth line.
Yes.
You're basically saying he shouldn't be in the top 6.
I'm not saying
not that he shouldn't be, but he's not going to live there.
I want this team, I want the other guys to be playing well enough to force Dodonov to be in the bottom 6.
And this is also, now what you have on the top line tonight is you have the 3 guys together that all 3 of them need to get going. So let's help each other.
It's a show me line.
Let's just help each other tonight.
Well, Drew Remenda, who covers the Sharks, asked a really nice follow-up about Bourque, about you're not going to have your A game every night. Sometimes you're going to have your B game. Well, listen to this.
Pete, if a player doesn't have his A game,
and
you're looking for, what are you looking for in his B game?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think because you coached, you're just one, you're looking for a foundation defensively, so he's not hurting you. I think that's probably the one thing a coach really has trouble with is either a guy has his A game and he's helping you win, or he's a defensive liability and he's helping you lose. You've got to close that gap where I don't have my A game. I'm maybe not helping you win tonight, but I'm not costing us a game either. So you got to have some defensive foundation to your game and trust from the coaching staff that even if you're off a little bit, you're still gonna be able to help us win some way.
We talk about being a consistent NHL player. You're not going to have your A+ or A game all the time, but can you have a B or B- game and avoid the C game or the D game, etc.?
It's kind of like saying that, you're going to be an offensive guy, but you can't be a liability defensively. You at least have to be able to know how to play in your own zone, because there's very few players that, the Ovechkins, right? Ovechkin gets a pass, but he can because he scores goals. And so you live with what happens at the other end of the rink. And so, that comes into the play when the grades come in, because Maverick may not be lighting it up from the offensive blue line to the net with passes, plays, shots, and things like that. But he's dependable on the other 2/3 of the rink. Yeah. And so you can continue to put him out there, and that's how you develop your game.
Okay, one more thing from Pete. He was asked about Jason Robertson.
A lot of Pete today.
Yeah, because it was interesting. And so I wanted
the Pete game show.
I wanted to talk about this. He was asked about Jason Robertson, where his game's at, and Pete talked about what we did, which is he had the offseason surgery that was unexpected, at least from the end of the regular season last year and playoffs. It was non-weight bearing. He talked about all that. So then I asked him a follow-up about, can he recover and make up that lost training time in the offseason and camp during the season, and how hard is it?
Yeah, you can. Every guy's different, everybody's different in that way. I think you definitely can. How long it takes, it's a different case for every guy. I think if you're not an elite skater, it's tougher. And I look at, I've had elite skaters miss time. It's usually quicker for them if you're not an elite skater and you miss that training and you miss training camp. I think it takes a little bit longer.
It was interesting because he didn't say it, but he's saying it. That we all know, like Jason Robertson is not known for being an elite skater.
No.
So he's saying it's going to take longer for him. It's going to be harder for him to catch up, but he believes he can.
Okay. I want to see some pushback. I mean, don't talk to me about his foot and his ankle or his little tendon, whatever it is. Just compete. If I see Jason compete, I'll keep my mouth shut. I don't see the compete, and I don't know if it's got anything to do with his little toe or a big toe or whatever the cyst was. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm not saying that he can't get better. I mean, we're going to allow him to skate himself into shape. Is that what we're saying?
I think so.
Okay.
I mean,
But I want to see, you can still skate to the front of the net.
No. I'm not arguing that, but
I haven't seen him there.
How else can you, if a guy, let's just say, is not where he'd be physically if he had his off-season training and hasn't been skating for the 2 months that he usually does before getting to camp. He missed all of preseason when he was doing his contract negotiation 2 years ago, but he was skating the whole time. So he was ready. He just didn't play in preseason games. This is different because he didn't play because he wasn't ready. Okay. Can you get ready during the season while you play? And can the coaches be patient with him?
I just don't know where that has anything to do with the toe drags that are getting knocked down, or when you tight turn and you lose the puck and things like that, instead of just going directly to the front of the net. Give it to Rupe. I'm going to get to the front of the net, go into the hard area. Then you don't have to skate and do some of those things. So I think we have confidence that as the season goes along, he's going to hopefully feel better. I think that's the best case scenario. That's what it is. Yep. And tonight, if he wants to do those things, I said it before the show, this is a team that's awful in their own zone. They're last in high danger chances. They're last in and they're last in shots against. And so this is a team that plays too much in their end, but they're not very good at it. So this could be a spot where that line, with Wyatt up there, that they can create some havoc. And if you get close enough to the net, maybe something goes in off of that sore foot, or there's something that goes in off your stick, your butt, or something like that, and he needs something to get back on track. And I think he's just going to have to gravitate a little bit more inside the dots.
You mentioned the Sharks.
We have a special delivery, so don't run out of time.
I won't run out of time.
Okay.
You mentioned the Sharks not being a very good team. They have been better. They started the year winless in their first 9. They were 0-7-2. They have played .636 hockey since then, going 6-3-2 in their last 11. So it has been better. And remember, they didn't have Celebrini for 8 of those first 9 games winless. And then he's played in the last, 7 games since the injury. He missed 12. He has 3 goals in 7 games. So there's something.
Well,
there.
he's a talent. I mean, there's no question.
But this is not a team that everyone's expected to be a playoff team. I don't think they can sustain .636 point percentage hockey over the next 40 to 60 games. If they can, they'd be a playoff team.
No, they're not going to be.
I don't think so.
No, they're not.
So you mentioned dealing with a sore foot. Do you have a thought of an elixir for a sore foot?
I do. I have a lot of elixirs, but I got a special one now. And we got a special delivery too. This is how you works around here. Come on, come around the back. That way we can show that logo with that penguin. What is that? Your logo too? Like that? You guys got that thing hanging around?
No, ours is a pigeon.
Open
That's
that up, would you?
Much more regal.
See, this is how we roll
fancy
here.
bird.
Special delivery.
Oh,
look at this, folks. Right there, a little more Herman Marshall.
And there's more than one.
Yeah, you can see this one here. We're starting to run out a little bit. This one here.
For us.
What?
Yeah, you have to duck down so you can see, because so far we have the headless delivery. There he is.
Oh, what? We don't want to see him from the waist down? Is that what you're trying to say?
Well,
Thank you.
No, that's not what I was saying, but
thank you, Herman Marshall. Thanks, Tony. We got an audience today.
There will be much more on this in the post-game show.
Or less.
Or less, depending on how the game goes. So, with that...
And I'm still going to hold I'm holding me, that I said in these 2 games, Stars were getting to 80 shots, didn't I?
Would they have 36?
36. Yes, 36.
Okay, so you don't want to do the math?
No, 44. I know what the math is. I'm just going.
You don't think 44 shots? That's
yeah,
a lot.
No, I'm thinking. I think they're going to finish with 15 or 16 in the first period tonight. Right. Although I also said that they were going to crush the Ducks last game too. I believe that they are going to crush these guys. There you go.
What are you?
Why don't we quack on that thing too?
We've moved on from the
What do we do with the shark?
We said the Ducks a lot. Yeah.
Do we have any kind of shark thing?
Should we get a video of
How
someone
about the no? What's the song?
What from Jaws?
From Jaws?
Yeah, that thing.
Oh,
we can't use that, can we?
I'm surprised you didn't get the shark sound
from
the Lego movie where they go.
Can we get the lawyers here? Can we use that sound from Jaws?
That's kind of short notice for lawyers. I think their offices close at 5.
Well, we got to hurry because he's got to get on his scooter and get to the drop of the puck.
I'm really looking forward to it. The scooter's back in action. I'm off to AAC. Letty's going to be here with company.
Me and my 3 new friends.
We'll see how he does for postgame, how coherent
Huey, Dewey, and Louie.
Thanks for joining us. Don't forget, full postgame show right afterwards. Enjoy watching on Victory Plus tonight, Stars and Sharks.
We all silly like the mayor.